I'm Ikram.
I'm Mark.
I'm Najma, along with our Vietnamese friends. We can't say their names. Okay. This is our agenda. We will start with key lessons of racism, policy solutions, team dynamics, lessons learned, world applications, and finally, conclusion.
Starting with the major key lessons, we found that it was a universal problem, racism, meaning that countries share a commonality through regressive individuals. For example, in Vietnam, education is involved with discrimination by social class. And then while in America, discrimination within the education system is also included between like teachers and students and anything that affects education. So both countries have a relation through discrimination between racism, which makes it like a commonality we share. I pulled an article from online by Joanne Dejekir. She's an associate professor at the University of Minnesota and an author of Ethnicity and Education in China and Vietnam. She mentions that discrimination in Vietnam is a direct correlation between the market economy, which created the social classes within Vietnam, and then that people who choose a higher education look down on those who have a lower education. And then the second key lesson is that it's taught through generations, meaning that elders can express traits of racism openly to, say, their children or just younger kids, and then they have the choice of either choosing to continue the existence of racial stereotypes or not. And to back that, we pulled another source online by Professor Patrick McGrady, and he's a professor in sociology. And he mentions that academic behavior and ability is evaluated differently by teachers across the board, meaning that teachers carry racial discrimination through the education system within America.
So some of the similarities that we found was, we already mentioned social class, but the difference between that is that Vietnam's racism is focused solely on social status, and for the United States, it's only one of the factors that contribute to racism. So a policy solution that we came up with to address Vietnam's issue was proposing government aid, so like financial aid assistance, because here in the United States, a lot of us get financial aid to go to school, and then it gives an equal opportunity for all of us to go to school despite like your social class. And then people who have like higher education live a more comfortable lifestyle, so that helps bridge the gap between the rural and the urban cities, and hopefully helps diminish racism in Vietnam as a whole. And then addressing it in the United States, we suggested to offer after-school programs so that the kids that are learning are engaged in communities that have support and offer help to push them to go to higher education. And also improving home life helps with the support system. It lets the kids know that they can do it and that they're also capable of going to higher education despite the racial discrimination they experience in education.
Okay, for our group dynamics, in our group, we equally contributed to teamwork, and everyone is held accountable for their own individual responsibilities. We balance out each other's weaknesses and strengths by communicating through multiple platforms. We reminded each other like assignments that are due through text, and we created Google Docs to share our ideas and information regarding our topic.
And some of the roles, like, they were really interchangeable throughout the course. Like, say, during the virtual conferences, on our end, one of us would be talking, kind of like leading questions, and then on their end, it would be interchangeable, meaning that they had multiple, like say leaders asking us questions and challenging us, while we were also interchanging our roles on our end, like either challenging them or something along those lines.
So throughout this course, some lessons that we learned was that a major lesson that we learned is patience is key, especially when we're communicating amongst our global teams, whether it was on the U.S. side or the Vietnam side. And especially when we were communicating with our Vietnamese group, we had to learn how to adjust and find new solutions. We progressed on engaging in discussions, whether it was asking or answering questions. And one thing that we got better at was just continuing conversations with our global team and, adding a spice of humor.
So for the real world applications, this really helped into like communication, say, by speaking to like a whole other crowd of people from like another culture and across the world. It really helps like get the ability to tell accurately and clearly, like it helps with proficiency in life.
So, and then relationship building was important to us when we learned this, and we realized that relationship building builds trust. And so in the real world, you'll be working with coworkers, hopefully for the rest of your life and your career. And relationship building is key, because if you can't learn how to trust each other and your abilities, then it's always like going to be a competition instead of pushing each other to do your best.
In order to carry out a disagreement amongst your group members, compromise will have to be made. When group members can't make agreements on a decision, they will need to put aside their initial ideas and come up with accomplishing new techniques as a group that will satisfy everyone while avoiding conflict within team members.
So to conclude this presentation, we're going to leave you with a quote by Nelson Mandela, who was revolutionary in his time and passed away wanting the best in equality for every generation. So the quote is, sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that great generation, let your greatness blossom. And to conclude it, we are that generation.